Hi, people. More innovation back here again, as always, and as usual. Yeah, you're already seeing based on the header of this video, as always, what, and as usual, what this topic or subject is going to be about in regards to this video. It's going to be about Melek Taus, also pronounced, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Tawûsî Melek. I'm simply going to pronounce him Melek Taus, the way that most people know him in English, Melek Taus. But in the native language or in the original primordial language, it's Tawûsî Melek. So I'm going to read from the Wikipedia article, as you can tell or see. This is the Wikipedia article, and then I'm going to simply give an explanation on Tawûsî Melek, on Melek Taus. Now, Tawûsî Melek, and then you have the Kurdish pronunciation, Romanized Tawûsî Melek, or also known or translated as the Peacock Angel, is one of the central figures in the Yazidi religion, or Yazdi religion. In Yazdi creation stories, before the creation of this world, God created 7 divine beings, of whom Tawûsî Melek was appointed as the leader. God assigned all of the world's affairs to these 7 divine beings, also often referred to as the 7 angels or Hifsir, the 7 mysteries. In Yazdi beliefs, there is one God who created 7 divine beings, the leader of whom is Tawûsî Melek or Melek Taus, the Lord of this world, who is responsible for all that happens on this world, both good and bad. According to religious tradition, the nature with its phenomena of light and darkness is from one source, which is the Lord of this world, Tawûsî Melek. Kiwil passages emphasize Tawûsî Melek's power on the earth and the sky, sea, on the mountains and their residents. That is, his power exists in all parts of nature, whether celestial or terrestrial. And yeah, it just goes on like that. You can find this Wikipedia article linked in the description of this video. Now, I'm going to dive into the way I usually do regarding spirit videos. Someone in the past, I remember, asked me about Melek Taus, aka Tawûsî Melek, and vice versa, on whether I could do a video, but that's not the reason I'm doing it. It just spontaneously came to me. Loosely referred to as the Peacock Angel, I remember. Most people that only know things at a superficial level about him or at a basic level call him the Peacock Angel. Now, within an occult context, Melek Taus is a thought form. Based on the description, the Yazdis got almost everything correct in relation to the strong correlation to Christianity, that there is one omnipotent God, the Yahweh God, the Jehovah, the Almighty One, the God, and 7 archangels that he created that reside over the world, essentially, and its elements and everything else in between, at the very least, in a general or all-encompassing context. Now, Melek Taus, honestly, the only thing that they got, hypothetically speaking, wrong only within a certain context, obviously, wrong only for the sake of speculation or for good measure's sake, is the addition of Tawûsî Melek. Essentially, according to them, based on this Wikipedia article and what I know in general about Melek Taus, he is essentially an emanation of God. He is essentially like, other than the 7 archangels, he is like the head of the 7 archangels. He is like the representation of God. When you compare it to magic, and so Christian magic, obviously, and just overall the Kabbalah and the forces, the factual forces that make up the universe, let's just say that he's like he is like Jesus. I initially wanted to say Metatron, but he is like the Yazdi version of Jesus, the same way that be after God in terms of a so-called spiritual hierarchy. I say so-called because bear in mind that this, despite factual, within a certain context, is speculation. Speculation that it's only, you can look at it, speculation in the sense that it's dumbed down up to a basic level to the point where it's comprehensible to the average person. Obviously, in reality, even someone like me, I can't understand all the implications involved. Absolutely not. Anyways, bluntly and simply put, Melek Taus is like the Yazdi thingy, the Yazdi Jesus. Melek Taus falls directly under God in their religion. Okay, regarding spiritual hierarchy, Melek Taus is an emanation of God. You'll read if you're seriously going to read this article, you're going to see all of that. He is essentially the leader of the 7 archangels, and he resides over the world, and his presence can be found everywhere. He is like a representation of God in a very similar context to Jesus, obviously. Now, I come back to my point where I said, metaphorically speaking, they got everything right okay, in relation from a factual perspective, so factually, with the exception of Melek Tawûsî. Melek Tawûsî is a thought form. He's a pagan god. They simply created him by believing in him the same way that most pagan gods are believed in. No one can blame them the same way that no one can blame the cultures and the tribes and the groups of people that created, whether it be deliberately or indeliberately, so by sheer happenstance. Um, in the same way that all the other tribes created their own personal pagan gods, like the Greeks and the Romans and the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, and it just goes on, and the Norse, it just goes on. Okay, they simply needed an explanation for how the world works, how the universe works. And within this context, the Yazidi got everything right except Melek Tawûsî. Melek Tawûsî didn't exist, does not exist factually, so they created him. He's a thought form. I spoke with Melek Tawûsî, and oh boy, he is like anywhere between twice to three times as strong as the average pagan god that I've met. He's quite a strong thought form, very, very strong. And the appearance is that of a giant peacock, unsurprisingly, with also unsurprisingly, based on, if you read this entire Wikipedia article or entry, a rainbow over his head in general. For the rest, he just looks like a regular peacock with the same colors, but he can change colors. The colors are also of the rainbow, but the conventional color is that just of a big peacock with the colors of cyan around him in general, blue, green, you name it, and everything else in between. In the beginning, he didn't say anything really. He was just like an actual real-life peacock. But then when he started speaking, his voice is quite profound. It's what you would imagine what a divine voice sounds like. His voice is really refined and deep, and yet completely crystal clear in terms of pronunciation and everything. No hoarseness, no raspiness, nothing. Everything is clear, like really, really, really clear. And like I said, again, I need to emphasize how strong he is. I mean, by pagan standards, by thought form standards, it's like I said, I think he is at the very least one of the strongest, if not the strongest thought form I've ever met. The strongest pagan god I've ever met. Obviously, no offense to him. My thought forms he's still nothing compared to my thought forms, with all due respect, of course. But yeah, now from a neutral perspective, I mean, yeah, no, he's like twice to three times as strong. Now, in terms of what he offers to anybody that wants to work with him, interesting, because I think he's the only spirit that I've ever met that said that personally he prefers not to interact with people. But if anyone really seriously is interested in him and their heart is in the right place and their intentions are pure, or they're simply at the very least very serious in getting involved with me, then he's open to listening to them, or at least giving them a listening ear, in a matter of speaking. He's open to giving them a chance, so to speak, quote unquote, giving them a chance. And let me see if I can remember anything else from my conversation with him. No, that's essentially it, metaphorically speaking, in a nutshell. Now, for those of you that want to get involved with him as a magician, I'm warning you to keep everything I said in mind. Keep everything I said in mind. No bullshitting Melek Tawûsî or Tawûsî Melek. None of that. Okay? If you really need to think twice and more, okay, 3 to 4 times even before you decide on getting involved with him. Now, anyways, for those that are interested in getting involved with him, hold on. You can find his seal. He gave me a seal that you can find also linked in the description, where you can download this. As you can tell, I simply drew this with a magic marker. This is essentially the outline of a peacock with a false infinity symbol. Yeah, I remember. He told me it's a false infinity symbol. And see, this brings me to my thingy again, to what I said earlier again. Okay, I don't blame the Yazidis, but he is obviously not a real emanation from God. He's simply a thought form. They essentially brought him into existence. The same way that all the other pagan gods, more or less, are created. The Yazidi needed a way to explain the world, and he's so strong, Melek Tawûsî, because they really profoundly believe that essentially it was their so-called Jesus. It was like that he was fully legit, that he already existed long before they long before they essentially came into being, they came into existence themselves. And that, again, his existence is not reliant upon them or anything like that. Like I said, the same way that all the other pagan cultures believed that that this was the case. Again. Anyways, yeah, so that's why it's a false infinity symbol. It's not the actual infinity symbol, obviously. That's why it's only like half. The outer ends aren't connected to each other, okay? The one true God, the Christian God, Yahweh, etc., and his divine power, that is infinity. That is the Alpha and the Omega, the infinite. But this is a false infinity symbol, indicating that it is of pagan nature. Anyways, that's what his, in a matter of speaking, of course. In a matter of speaking, I mean that not literally in a pagan, not necessarily in a pagan nature. All things that stem from man would essentially be, that claim to be infinite, would be a false infinity symbol in that context. But loosely put, yeah, that's why. Okay. Now, this is what his seal looks like. Like I said, this is what his seal looks like. It's simply a peacock and the false infinity symbol. Essentially, the so-called wannabe infinity symbol above his head, or above him, in the middle, right above his head, essentially, or aligned with his head. You can find this, you can download it in the description. Again, I warn you one last time, okay, what time it is. And yeah, that's essentially it. Let me know if you have any other questions, and goodbye.